You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised.
Peace and blessings to you, the great WMBM 1490 radio audience. Welcome to Brotherhood Talk Worldwide. Blessed to be in the studio with your big brother, Brother Lyle Muhammad. And I am not alone. I want to introduce you to my special co-host momentarily, but I want you all to do what you're supposed to do right now. Very important time of year, very important topic. So tell somebody to tap in, tune in. You know how to do it. Online folk, go online. Old school folk, go to the AM dial. Everybody else, call your friends and your family. This is Brotherhood Talk Worldwide, and we're so grateful for the platform being provided here by WMBM 1490 AM. My name is Brother Lyle Muhammad, and not only do I have the honor of serving as your host today, but also as the executive director of the Circle of Brotherhood. And I have a beautiful, awesome, powerful co-host in the studio with us right now. I'm talking about none other than the CEO of the Carrie Meek Foundation. I'm talking about none other than the daughter of one of the greatest representatives that we've seen this side of South Florida, our beloved sister, Lucia Raiford. Welcome to Brotherhood Talk Worldwide, my dear sis.
Thank you, Brother Lyle. I appreciate your having me.
We appreciate you being here. And again, family, we got a very powerful, powerful topic we're going to be dealing with right now as we go into what takes place this time of year. I know there's a lot of peace and blessings going on this time of year. I know there's a lot of family gathering going on this time of year. There's also a lot of domestic violence going on this time of year, dear family. As a matter of fact, there's also a lot of domestic violence going on 365 days of the year, and our communities are ill affected in such a horrific way. So look, we're gonna have a straight up conversation. Don't you start running right now just because you heard that topic. You better cut that out. You better cut that out. So again, we're not just going to delve into domestic violence, but there's some very powerful things that are going to be coming up in 2026 to help heal, grow our communities. And so, well, first, let me just do this. Let me just give some space for my beloved co-host I know it's a beautiful time of year, and before we dive into our topic, is there anything you want to say to our listening audience right now?
I just do want to say largely that domestic violence is a criminal justice issue, it's a personal relationship issue, it's a public health issue, and it is an issue that affects so many of our families and our children. And so it's something we certainly feel very strong about having a better approach to addressing it.
And indeed, family, you heard that, right? Having a better approach. Because look, some of y'all know what we're doing ain't working. Let me clean that up some. Some of you know that the things that we're delving into right now are not the solution. So we're going to be real solution oriented here, family. But the very first thing I would like to do is to take a moment and pause for the cause for all of our men, women, and children who are survivors of domestic violence and who are thriving in this horrific world that we live in, having overcome your experiences. We want to first pause and say we're so grateful, we're so thankful, and we're so honored that you were able to overcome whatever types of abuses you have experienced, because we know domestic violence comes in many, 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 many different forms. And so with that being said, as we frame this, let me ask you a question as we get ready to delve into this. And Lamont, you let me know if those are a go or if they're not, okay? Just so that I know. So first of all, Lucia, this topic of domestic violence, is it something that you just thought was a good topic to get involved into, or does it hit home for you, man?
It hits home in many, many ways, but it came to me as a body of work quite by accident. And probably most of your audience would be surprised how it came to me, but I am a survivor of domestic violence, as was my mother. And I'm sure my grandmother, who was, raised in an era when you just had to take it. We had a family saying, primarily from my grandmother, when you have your head in the lion's mouth, you have to ease your way out. That was a survival strategy. And it remains a strategy for most of us today. So it's not something I came to just because it was a topical issue at the moment. We've been at this for 30, 40 years now, and building momentum. And the fact that we could sit here on an open mic in a radio station to talk about it makes me really feel good about the results of our work, even though we know we haven't solved the problem. We really cranked up the awareness of it and the acceptance for its non-acceptance of it, and we hope to do more.
Talking about hoping to do more, there's some very powerful things that we're actually going to be doing together, but more about that later. So look, because this topic does hit home, we do want to give you an opportunity and give you the call-in number here at WMBM. That call-in number is 1-888-599-9626. Again, 1-888-599-9626. And so to center us on our conversation, I brought a beautiful friend along in a musical version of a friend. Many of you know our beloved sister Raiford for so many things, but she has a very poignant song that was produced that talked about peace on earth. There's violence all over the world,
Absolutely.
but if we can't have it in the home,
how can we have peace in the Middle East when there's none at home? How can we have understanding in the land when there's none in the woman? And there's none in the man. How can we heal the wounds of the world if we cannot heal our own? Where does this peace on earth begin? And not in the home.
where does this peace begin if it does not begin in our home? Rachel Farrell. Wow, as I listen to that, I know I go through many things, Lucia, but I want you to reflect on what you just heard, particularly with our topic and the state of the world and where we are. Any reflections on this?
Well, thank you for introducing me to the song. I haven't heard it, but the voice is so compelling. And it makes an excellent point that we first have to look inside before we think about fixing the problems of the world, knowing that the most basic human relationships are family relationships. The most highly functioning corporations in the world are the family of a father, a mother, children, and the organization that it takes in order for us to turn out healthy children, healthy adults, and survive it all. And I think what's driven home to me by this song is how emotionally it's delivered, but also a clear message that we gotta fix ourselves first before we look outward and before we look at changing the rest of the world. And as Americans, we seem to like to sit on top of our couches and whatever it is, thrones, and judge how everybody else in the world behaves. And policing everybody else's behavior, when we really need to be looking in the mirror, looking at ourselves and looking at our family members and making better decisions about how we govern ourselves and maintain our own internal peace.
That's a beautiful response. And I want to remind you again, this is a topic that touches many of us. You can actually call in at 1490-599-9626, WMBM 1490. And so, you know, a lot of times, my dear sister Lucia, when people talk about domestic violence, they give the statistics and they give the numbers and they talk about the different types of abuses. But from your experience in working on this, what are some of I guess we can call them the unseen or unheard, or things that just aren't talked about but are just as vital, that need to be talked about when it comes to domestic violence?
I used to, when I was new at this, do a lot of statistic gathering. Some people need to hear that because some people need to have those kind of things in order to make an idea concrete to them in a way that they think might be important to get their attention to try to work with it. But I think that none of us has not been touched by domestic abuse.
Oh, could you say that one more time, please?
None of us have not been touched by domestic abuse. Not necessarily all violence, but certainly the kind of power and control and abuse of it that impacts our families. Your children sit in classrooms next to kids who come in the morning after having witnessed abuse of moms, children, and family members that morning, and certainly the night before. Even our own children experience it. My child certainly did, and my mother's children did as well. And we have to survive it. Unfortunately, as families of color, and Black families in particular, we have enough trauma without adding to it inside of our homes and sending our children out with that kind of burden on their souls and spirits. So I rely less on the numbers and more on what I believe to be every human being's awareness that it's happening, and we have got to stop pretending that it doesn't. It's not next door to us, it is next door to us. It's not it is in your kitchen, and you know it. It's in your house, it's in your car, because it doesn't always happen in the home. Some of the most dangerous acts of domestic violence occur outside the home. Stalking, threats, those kinds of things that don't happen behind closed doors, but they're happening nonetheless. And we have to take those behaviors and the impact of those behaviors into account when we think about the safety of our children, the safety of our families, and not just try to put domestic violence into a box that's neat and convenient for us to contemplate.
That's an awesome response. And I guess the kind of segue you make me think about in terms of the way domestic violence has been approached, both by organizations that are working on it in our community, there's been a division between men and women. I think it's crystal clear that all of us know that the overwhelming majority of perpetrators on domestic violence are men. And I'm gonna give you a line that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave to me, and you all can take it or leave it alone. He said, wherever you find a no good woman, a no good man made her that way. And so, man, we got to step up and take our responsibility. But more about that, because there's some exciting things on the horizon about getting men involved. But what have you seen over the years about the disparities in terms of women's view on domestic violence, or men's view or activity on domestic violence?
I wish I could just skip over what you just said, but I think it's incredibly important. And it speaks to at least one man and one leader who was able to talk about the responsibility of men in terms of the health and safety of women. That's incredibly important, and certainly we all agree that there are men who are abused by women, and there are women who are abused by women, but I certainly support your statement that overwhelmingly, in terms of domestic violence, it is men who tend to perpetrate it, and women who are typically, or men who have been feminized as well, typically victimized by it.
So now as we think about that, I was at a conference, a statewide conference back in August, hosted by the Florida
Department of Children and Families?
No, it's the Florida Partnership to End Domestic Violence.
Yeah.
And they brought your brother in to do a presentation at this, where people from all over the state who are involved in actively being on the ground in intervention and prevention when it comes to domestic violence. And one of the things that came to light at that time is that many of the caseworkers, social workers, and counselors, they were finding that as their clients, women were coming in, many of them had the same abusers. And it brought light to the fact that while we focus ourselves on concentrating on the victim, we don't concentrate on transforming the victimizer. And so with that being said, there's efforts going on. I know Carrie P. Meek Foundation is involved in a national effort right now to get men, brothers, I'm talking straight to you right now, to get men involved in being part of the solution. So can you tell us some things about that initiative?
Well, it is, we hope to engage men and boys as allies to help eliminate domestic violence. One thing that we firmly believe, because we do know it is a fact, that most of the perpetrators of that type of violence, excuse me, are men. And we know that it's not gonna stop until men stop committing it. What we also know is 99.9% of our men do not engage in domestic violence. If they ever have, they no longer do it. But those are not the guys that we focus on. We focus on the guys who are batterers. We focus on the guys who commit the crimes, who cause the harm, and then we focus on them only for that instant. We don't focus on their remediation. We don't focus on preventing the behaviors that resulted in the violence. We do nothing about that. We have this spasmodic kind of response on a case-by-case transactional kind of basis when it comes to working with men in this movement. In fact, I have to admit, as long as I've been working in it, I know for a fact that we have typically treated men as batterers. You men are bad guys, we women are helpless victims, and neither is the case. The fact of the matter is, our community consists overwhelmingly of right-thinking, well-meaning, supportive men who understand their responsibilities of leadership. They understand their responsibility as men differently than those who batter. Even though they've come from the same households, the same communities, the same environments for the most part, they don't choose to batter.
That's a beautiful statement, and it's going to make me, I'm going to have to self-disclose at this time. With that being said, and I think it's important. And as I do self-disclose, I want you to start thinking about the type of things that happen to children that grow up in homes with battering and abuse and domestic violence takes place, and you're actually listening to one right now. And so just for the record, I just want you to know my mother had me when she was 16. I had a brother by the time she was 17. I had a sister by the time that she was 18. And while my biological father wasn't around, there were many abusive men. By the time I was 5, I was fighting adults who were abusive in my household. And I'm not talking about from just a particular incident here. I'm talking about over a span of youth and adolescence.
Absolutely.
And experiencing it. And I'm talking about being the child that everybody's talking about in the school the next day because the police had to come to my house. I'm the one that had to hear the screams. Matter of fact, to be quite honest, by the time I was 6, I don't even know if my mom was listening or knows this part, but I had a weapon hidden in every part of the house because things were always breaking out. A knife under the couch here, a bat behind the door there. And do you think it's a coincidence that by the time I was 14, I was kicked out of a whole state school system? Oh. They labeled me a problem child, but I think I was just a child with problems. The effect on our children.
Well, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I am the mother.
Ooh, that's a powerful statement.
And in both those circumstances, certainly I experienced violence, and as a young child, I had to defend myself. And what I thought my mom too, against an abusive husband. But the thing about it is, there's so many ways to victimize people who you feel are less powerful than you. And I'm gonna say something to you as a black mother of a black son. The surest way to get yourself hurt by a black male child,
listen now,
is to attack his mother.
Say what?
I don't care if you're the biological father, you're the boyfriend, whatever the case is. And very often, the child ends up in a system, sometimes even because of killing the mother's abuser.
Right.
And that's not unusual. I did a lot of work at the New York City Police Department in this area. In fact, that's how I started my career in this area. And there were so many circumstances where young boys got locked up because they were fighting, shooting, killing in defense of their moms. Let me just tell you, brothers, don't do it.
Mm.
Don't do it. Don't put our children in that position. And if you have any sense at all, you'll be smart enough to know the rage you felt when you saw your mom receiving the same kind of attention. And I guarantee you, you're modeling it. You are modeling it. So it is not, I wish I could say, oh my God, Brother Lyle, that is so distinct only to you. I wish I could, but I was a 10-year-old girl putting knives under my pillow too.
Come on.
And it's just something we can't accept and normalize. We've got to stop it. What kind of anger, what kind of fear, what kind of traumas our children experience? And we expect them to go skipping along in their whole life and do all these things when they are so damaged by the way that we weren't able to protect ourselves or protect them.
You know, you give me another flashback that gave me an epiphany about the effect on our children. I remember as I was going through a divorce in my first marriage, we were in a counseling situation where they separated the children from the adults. Mm-hmm. And I had to get up and go to use the restroom. In the room where they had all of the children, the door was slightly open. And as I was walking by, they had the children repeating out loud over and over again, "It's not my fault. Mm-hmm. It's not my fault." Sister, when I tell you that hit me like a ton of bricks. Mm-hmm. You know, and look, I think Tupac said it best, you know, that we're going to end up raising a race of babies that hate the ladies, you know, and then we begin to look at how this has now for us compounded. And I do want to delve into it a minute here. I know there's some differences between domestic violence in Black family situations than other cultures because of our history. Absolutely. And how we got here. Absolutely. And what we go through. You want to speak to that, son?
Well, it's my opinion. Again, it is not anything that I've been taught. The fact of the matter is I have more than 30 years of lived experience as an African American woman. A few more than 30 years, but I'm not going to be that specific. And we have a collective history. We have a history of, first of all, brilliance and survival, resilience and strength. And so in order for us to live in this world, we've had to deal with onslaughts, unimaginable onslaughts from the time we're born. Actually, we know now, before we're born, because we get our brain chemistry is even changed by the trauma and violence that our mothers experience while they're carrying us before we were born. But the history of having been enslaved, having men totally emasculated, having women totally, I don't know what the word is on the feminine side, but victimized to the extent of not just for not having any body autonomy, but certainly not having emotional, physical, or any kind of autonomy over our own selves. Not even owning, to use a bad word, our own children, much less our own selves. And having a long history of separating husbands from wives, or even not permitting that there be husbands and wives. And we're not even allowed to have the dignity of marriage or the dignity of sustaining a long-term relationships. We certainly have had to endure the indignity of being sold away from families and encouraged to be away from families, even in very current systems of I don't want to say welfare, but certainly in those circumstances where the support a woman and children get is often dependent on the father not being around. There has been that kind of leverage. So there's been that kind of continued institutionalized support of that. And we've had to overcome it and live through it. We have all kind of hypersexualized stereotypes of Black women and Black men. Yes, And it's just, all of that has contributed to our experience of not just domestic violence, but the violence that we have to undergo just to survive day to day to day to day. So how it's been internalized or how it's been metabolized by us all, I don't know in particular, but I can guarantee you the cumulative effect ends up in where we are today. And I'm grateful that we're healthy enough, even with it all, to have this discussion, talk about it, and continue to find ways to survive and thrive.
I'm glad you ended on that particular part, because as this message goes out today and even after today, no doubt, as you said, 100% of us have some type of experience. There are some who are listening right now who understand clearly what we're saying, but they're trapped. Right now,
Yes.
as you and I are having this dialogue, there are individuals, there are women that are in domestic violence situations and they don't know how to get out. There are men who are abusive perpetrators and they don't know how to stop or change their behavior. In other words, we do have, so let's just speak a moment to those who are guilty as charged and who are also in current situations about the beginning pathways to getting out and transforming our lives.
Well, let me start with the first one. Those who are perpetrators of violence, and oftentimes guys are just not even aware that I'm not doing so and so, and she did this, and she, as though there was some provocation that justified the violence that ensued. Well, we know that's not the case. She made a choice. She could have made the steak the same way every night, and tonight it was wrong, and so you had to give her a black eye. But the fact of the matter is, we are so now, because we do a lot of discussion about domestic violence, the community is really aware of domestic violence. What we aren't aware of is the nuances that it takes, one, to totally survive it, and two, what it takes to also stop the perpetration of it. Domestic violence is not something you can turn off with a lever or a knob. It is also not something you can survive just by saying, I'm getting out of here. Women know that staying very often is a survival strategy. And she knows better than anybody else that when he says, if you leave me, I'm gonna kill you, he means it. And there's nothing you can do. There's no resource we have. There is no police department. All of the things that we have in place right now are reactive. After an event has occurred, we can give you this resource. After an event has occurred, we can arrest the guy, which often escalates a situation rather than prevents the second or follow-up situation. We need to get better at taking into account how men and women actually live their lives. And it is not a one-off kind of experience. And until those of us who create, and I've helped create numbers of systems that we know have not been as effective as we wanted them to be, and remain so. But we have to do something. We had to start out with arrest. We had to start out with all these things that focus totally on the criminal justice system and reforming it to be responsive. And that was work that needed to be done. But that's not all the work that needed to be done. There's so much more that needs to be done that we have to be creative about, we have to be fearless about, we have to admit our weaknesses, we have to think about where we need to be more resilient, we need to not get stuck in somebody else's idea of what the answer is. It's going to take all of us to contribute new thought, new ideas as to how to be preventative, not necessarily only reactive. Calling the police sometimes is the very worst thing you can do. And as an African American woman, I can tell you from experience, we are not calling cops to demean and harm our men. We want the violence to stop. That's it.
Right.
So don't expect us to be collaborative in the kinds of things that you think we should be doing because you're there. The fact of the matter is that's not how we live, and that's not our reality. One, we know he's going to get bail. Two, we know we're not unlikely to pay the bail ourselves, because we don't want to see him locked up. We just want to see him not to hit us, and we want to know him to know that we do have a resource in case you do it. It's not effective in preventing it. Sometimes it can escalate it. But as for women and those who are trapped right now, your circumstance is not a permanent trap. As my grandmother would say, when you have your head in the nine's mouth, you have to ease your way out. And there are strategies for that. And those are strategies that should be worked out with professionals who are a resource. But we talk about safety planning. We talk about training your children in a survival, just as you would if you thought that an atom bomb was about to be dropped. You have to be prepared to make your move when you believe it to be safe, and you know better than anybody else when it's going to be safe for you. You know whether or not it's going to be while you're at work, whether you're dropping the kids to school, any of those circumstances. If you have been in a partnership with somebody and they know you well enough and you know them well enough, you can sense what your areas of danger are. You can sense when it's best time for you to leave. And you also know when that threat is made, you know it's serious.
And with that divine guidance, before we segue into our second half and start dealing with some solutions, I do want to give some folk some faith and some hope that our community is not constricted to this reality permanently.
That's right.
We have the ability to transform our lives, our minds, our way of thinking, and to transform how we deal and treat each other. And so, as we are dealing with this, reminding of a great song by Ty Tribbett that talks about, only one night. Look, family, we cannot have a permanency of a mindset that we're always going to be stuck in this solution. So take a listen to this and listen to the message from Ty, and then we're going to come back and we're going to deal with some solutions. WMBM 1490, Brotherhood Talk Worldwide, family. Only one night, family. Let's get up out of our condition and situation.
We've been made to do it for a night. Only one night though. We've been made to do it for a night. Only one night though. Cry made to do it for a night. Only one night though. Only one night though. Only one night though. If you cry, you can cry one night. Only one night though. Stress, you can stress one night. Only one night though. Let the tears fall down one night. Only one night though. Only one night though. Only one night though. If you cry, make sure that you cry. Only one night though. If you're sad, make sure that you're sad. Only one night though. If you're stressed, make sure that you're stressed. Only one night though. Only one night though. Only one night though. Joy comes in the morning. Joy comes in the morning. Joy comes in the morning. Feel this thing. Joy comes in the morning. Tim, I can see a brand new day. I can see a brand new day. Looking like a brand new day. I'm waiting for them to get with me.
And you were actually involved in this experience. Let's see, when was this? Maybe a year ago at the most. I received a phone call from our beloved sister, Jackie Collier, who was working at the Hampton House at the time, who had this awesome dynamite idea about getting black men out on the streets to help deal with human trafficking and just having a presence of manhood. And maybe a day or two later, I got a call from our beloved sister from Girl Power, Fema Campbell, who talked about an opportunity to focus on black men getting more involved in not just human trafficking and in domestic violence. And then I got a wonderful call from you about the initiative that you were working on just to get men involved in stopping domestic violence. And brothers, I want you to think about this from two angles. Those of you who are not perpetrators, in the eyes of the circle of brotherhood, if you stand by and watch, you're a perpetrator. If you stand by and do nothing, we might as well be perpetrators. And for those of you who are perpetrators, there's another message, but let me, before I digress, I was getting ready to digress on there, but no, in terms of solutions and seeing and envisioning our community, where do we go from here?
Well, I don't know what the definitive answer is, but I do know that I think we have to be creative again and fearless enough to try new things that we believe will not be harmful. One of the things we need to try that we haven't in this movement for domestic violence and sexual assault and stalking and gender-based crimes, where women are typically the victim, or men who have been feminized in the eyes of others are also typical victims. We have not given voice to men. In fact, I've closed most of you out of the discussion. We've not given language to men, i.e. men, right-thinking, well-meaning, or those who want to rehabilitate have not been given the platform to join us. Most of the time, this movement or what people derive from it is that, man, you bad, women, you victim. The fact of the matter is, not all men are batterers. Most men are not. Not all men who have been abusive stay that way. Not all women who have been victimized see themselves as victim at some point of empowerment, because I see, of course, myself as a survivor. And I'm very proud of the fact that I went through that and I'm here now. And it was the best preparation I had for creating the largest anti-domestic violence program in the largest police department probably in the world, or United States, certainly in the NYPD. And you'd be shocked to know who hired me to do that. It would be Mayor Rudolph Giuliani.
Okay. Now you know the rest of the story.
That's just the start. That's the foolishness of me too. Because it was crazy, but he gave us the freedom to do what we thought we needed to do. And we created a police crime strategy. There were 7 of them. Eliminating domestic violence, or ending the silence of domestic violence, was police. I forget the phrase of it now. Anyway, number 4. And we were given permission to drive it down. That's exactly what we did. And I learned so much about the human condition. New York City is a place that has, 97 known languages. So you can imagine the number of cultures that those languages were spoken in. And so we had to figure it out. Still figuring it out. But one thing we do know is that we need to engage, encourage, and literally beg men to join us as allies in the elimination of this scourge. Most of you hate it. Most of you see it. Some of you slapped a girlfriend when you were 16 years old and have regretted it ever since. Some of you may not know how yet to deal with the things that you do and the things that you feel. What we want to do is create an environment where it's safe for you to learn about it, talk about it, understand how to do safe interventions when you see it, so that you don't sit passively by while you're sitting there with at the football game with somebody saying what he's going to do to this B and that B and blah, 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 that B knows better than the so-and-so and so-and-so. And rather than merely squirming in your seat in discomfort, that you will have the language that we'll work through, so that you'll find a safe way to talk to your brothers to say, man, that ain't right. No, you're not going to do any of that stuff, blah, blah, blah. And so we create a culture where men speak to other men about their responsibilities and about their rights and roles in the elimination of violence against women and girls. We have done conferences. We're going to do a whole series of stuff, and I don't mean it to be a one-off. The Meek Foundation will be doing this work as long as I'm around, and as long as I have supporters, collaborators, and partners, as we do with the Circle of Brotherhood, because we know that men best lead other men. I can stand up here and preach to y'all all day long. I don't have your lived experience. I don't know how you talk to each other, but I do know you need to, and I know a lot of you want to, and we just haven't given you the language. In fact, we emasculate you if you try to talk in these kinds of ways. So one of the things we're going to do, and it's a huge undertaking, is show the world what a good man looks like.
Ooh-wee.
And we're also going to make sure that our boys are taught early on what it means to be a healthy man, what it means to be a healthy leader of families, what it means to be a healthy leader, period. Because your masculinity is just one part of who and what and how you are. There's so many other things that factor into our lives other than that gender stuff, you know, the pink you're a girl, blue you're a boy. That's the first thing they ask a pregnant woman, is it a girl or a boy? And then we take our children on these separate tracks. We teach our boys that to be a man, you gotta be tough, you can't cry, you can't do so and so and so, or you act like a pea. And if you're not throwing the ball right, stop throwing like a girl. Diminishing the girl's value in his very young eyes. So we want to talk to coaches, we want to train coaches, we want to have, men training coaches.
We right here with you.
I know it. I'm so proud. I'm so grateful for that too. Faith leaders, who we know also have the same challenges, and we know many faith leaders whose first ladies are victims of domestic violence. And we need to wipe the shame away from it and put the prevention in front of it. We can clean it up. We don't need anybody parachuting into our communities to tell us how to do it. We need our men in leadership positions to take responsibility for it as being trained by professionals. We're creating curricula to train boys. We're giving coaches curricula to train their players. We're giving faith leaders. We want this permeated in every part of our community, neighborhood by neighborhood, having a community-based leadership movement on this issue. By us, with us, and for us, men to men. That's the name of our project. Men to men, man to man, supporting safer communities.
Now, you heard it right here on WMBM, some of you for the first time. In South Florida, I want you to know, and I have to say this, that how serious our sister is about this project going right. Our beloved sister in the Carrie P. Meek Foundation sent your brother to a conference in Atlanta where the other programs across the country that are part of this initiative all came together. And I must tell you, sister, how grateful I am for being in that learning space, that healing place. And I'm keeping it 100 and for getting my marching orders, not just for the Circle of Brotherhood, but all those other groups that you just named. So look, South Florida, it's about to change around here. Now, some of you might remember back in 2014, when we incorporated as an organization, we made a promise to you that we would play a significant role in reducing violence and gun violence in our communities. Some of you may remember that we stayed true to our word, our worth, and our work. And even though right now, as we're having this conversation, I'm just being quite honest, in my mind, I'm like, wow, we literally have staff members that are furloughed that deal with domestic violence. That means not just because of federal budget cuts, but local shenanigans in politics, that there are trained men and women who can reach in such a terrific way our people. So I'm challenging right now all the organizations out there that belong to men to become a part of this movement. Why can't South Florida be the example to say, this is what our families are supposed to look like? This is the role of what real men do in their communities when it comes to not just preventing domestic violence, but hey, let's intervene so that our people can see what that looks like. So look, we're in it to win it, and we're not going anywhere. And I want you to know that, and I want to thank you for the leadership of the Carrie P. Meek Foundation. I also want to leave room right now if there's anything that you want to say, whether it's in a personal note, whether it's about the Carrie P. Meek Foundation, or anything that you want to say to those who are listening right now as we prepare to wind down this topic.
Well, one thing I can say, I can't think about the Carrie Meek Foundation without thinking about Carrie Meek herself. And she is and was a humble woman, always remained so. But she always kept her shoulder to the grindstone for her community. She provided leadership from the front, the back, the side, and every wraparound in every kind of way you can imagine. Not just pontificating in front of microphones and television cameras. Carrie Meek did the work. She did the work to make sure that assets and resources and ideas and fresh ways of doing things were driven down into her beloved community. And the foundation was created to carry on that legacy in health, education, housing, and community and economic development. This work pulls a thread through all of those facets. And we intend to create a really comprehensive, diverse, multicultural community engagement program that will go from north to south in Miami-Dade County and east to west, and we are leaving no man and no boy behind. So we will be coming to your community, we will be coming to you, asking for your support, your engagement, and come along and join with us as we try to transform our community into one of safety.
And all of us have a role to play in that, family. And as I'm still listening here and thinking about, I'm excited about what 2026 looks like, what our involvement in moving forward on this. And I'm also excited for some of you who are listening out there to support the work. The Circle of Brotherhood actually has a campaign going on right now. We were blessed with one of our national organizations who is very familiar with the federal budget cuts that have knocked out 95% of our staff, and they're also familiar with the local political shenanigans. And they put up a $250,000 match opportunity where they will match 100% of the donations. Go to our website, www.circleofbrotherhoodmiami.org, or our Instagram page, Circle of Brotherhood. And just remember, if we're saying one brother, one hood, and we are coming to your hood, we need to have people who are boots on the ground that don't do this work just voluntarily, but it's a full-time job. And I guess it's time for my little rant right now. And my little rant is, when you look at what you had just comprehensively laid out, if you are a politician on a state level, a local level, and you just heard this, we need support so that the resources can keep people employed, boots on the ground. We're not going to volunteer our way out of slavery. We're not going to volunteer our way out of poverty. It's about us participating in such a way that all of us win. And so go to our website and like that match campaign and support the Carrie P. Meek Foundation. You know, I'll be the first one to say it here. All threads of violence cross and intersect.
True.
And I've said it all over the country, and I'm going to say it right here on WMBM right now. The work that the Carrie P. Meek Foundation did with the ARPA dollars that came from Miami-Dade County to put it into the hands of community-based intervention specialists and programs, and even opportunities for those who never had the funding before, I give the Carrie P. Meek Foundation an A+ salute. You did an awesome job.
Thank you for that.
So much so that, look, I'm trying to get some more money to come your way so we can do some more. I don't know if the county is. We like zeroed out right now. I don't know if the city is.
Yeah, for that particular project with that particular funding source. But I think the county and this community, we're all creative enough to come up with new ways to get old things done and old things. You know, I have not given up faith. I've not given up any sense of, oh, now we're helpless. I mean, I don't prescribe to that, but I also know that there are elected officials who are looking for ways for us to give them that they can say yes to. So I think we need to take into account both the responsibilities of leadership, and especially our own responsibilities of leadership, and create responses and proactive means by which there's no way you can be a responsible citizen and say no.
Come on. To this work?
Yeah, and I think most of them, I have never spoken to an elected official who has not been supportive of this work. First of all, most of them have also been touched by domestic violence. From a neighbor, from a family member. Most of them have. And what we're going to do is put them in a position to say yes.
So on that point about putting people in a position to say yes, we want to close out with some motivation and some inspiration, because let's keep it real for a minute. Many brothers and sisters, men and women who have been victim or victimized or in households or circumstances of domestic violence, they said to our beautiful black male-female relationships, no more, never again. And there have been so many who still believe in love. And so I want us to hear this little piece from Mary J. because we want to still believe in love. And then I just want you to close out, and when we come back from this, with some hope and inspiration for our community.
It's a whole new day, a whole new wave. Ain't worried about nothing. Everything's looking up. Yeah. I was going through a phase, stuck in always thinking something like I ain't never good enough. Yeah. I've been thinking of the time I wasted. I've been looking in all the wrong places for love. That really brought me down. Yeah. I'm so sick of being sad and lonely until I can find the one I know I need. I'll never give up on me, no. I still believe in love.
Believe in love. My dear sister, all that you've been through and the transformative work that you do with the foundation, can you give our people going from 2025 into 2026 a reason why to still believe in love?
Ooh, I don't know. I do not know. The fact of the matter is, all I can tell you is believe in yourself. Believe in the ability to have trusting and safe relationships, and don't be afraid of the next person who might be your blessed, assurance in terms of ensuring that you will have a healthy relationship. It scared me for a very long time, very, very, very long time, until I that right guy. Has since died, but at least I had the gift of knowing what it felt like to be cherished.
Count that bliss. Woo, that was,
and I tell you, woo. I can't settle for anything less than that now. But the fact of the matter is, love is one thing, abuse is another, and I don't want anybody to conflate the two. Because there's a honeymoon period in these domestic violence situations after you've been battered and blah, 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 and you go through the honeymoon, restorative, baby, I love you, it was my mistake, I'll never do it again. And those are the words we want to hear, and we believe it and use that also as a hoping that period will last. Typically it doesn't. So yes, I want everybody to continue to believe in love, but I understand, please, what real love is, and it's not a beating.
Well, family, I think that says a whole lot. And as we prepare to wrap up, I just want to say to you, I want to put out a special call to black men right now. Whether we know it or not, we are the fathers of this planet. And if our planet is in an abusive state, it's the father's duty, obligation, and responsibility to set his household in order. And so, black men, I'm calling on you as I'm calling on me, not only to help set my personal household in order, but our neighborhoods and our communities where domestic violence will become a long time thing of the past, taking you from 2025 to 2026 with a new mind. Thank you so much. Y'all give some love for Lucia, Raiford, the Carrie Meek Foundation, and representing us up in here. And we love you, and shout out to WMBM 1490 Radio, bringing it to you real, family.
Thank you.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised.